Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to the Fail Breakdown channel. It's Wednesday, January the 14th, 2026. Today, we're going to be looking at a few different fail breakdowns. Key theme of today, though, sellers are in control, which obviously makes things a little bit more difficult trading fail breakdowns. So, slightly tricky session. So we'll be talking about some of the specific nuances around that. And at the end of the video, I've done something a little bit different today for the 6935. I actually recorded my execution live on that one. So after we've done kind of talking through, the post game on these three trades, I'll attach that video or that section at the end. It does go on a little bit because obviously it's live and. But yeah, you can watch kind of how I executed that one in real time at the end of this. Okay, so let's get in with it. Just a quick disclaimer. As always, we're just doing our best to relay what the system and strategy taught by Adam Mancini. We haven't read his newsletter at this point, of course, because it's 2:40 in the afternoon before he's published it. So we're just sharing our knowledge as best we can, but keep that in mind. We're not experts. Adam is the boss, and defer to him for the full breakdown later on in the newsletter. Okay, let's get into it. So we're going to deal with the 6977 first of all here. So coming into the morning session, this actually triggered in the pre-market, so pretty early in the day. And I really liked this as a zone in general. So especially with the back test that we'd had of the 69, I think we got down to 66, which was really back testing the breakout level from Monday morning and then recovering the prior day's low. So it looked like a really nice level to engage in for me. And when I woke up, I'm gonna guess this was your same perspective on it. I felt like we'd had pretty good acceptance of the 77 level, so we'd flushed it, returned to it, and then dipped again. So we got the initial flush down to 66, returned, and then dipped again to 64-ish. So only about 2 points deeper, but that it's maybe a key point to note that we did get a lower low during this sort of swing of acceptance and then pushed back up, and I took the long right around 7:30 Eastern time, 6:30 my time, because I felt like that met all the criteria. Obviously we had the significant low from yesterday, which was on the 4 hour. We're looking at this guy right here. We'd flushed it quite nicely for a pre-market session. Decent, didn't trigger my scary flush indicator down here, but it was a decent sell for a pre-market session, and then worked on acceptance and pushed back up through, and I felt like that met all the criteria, but it did ultimately end in a stop for me. So yeah, obviously not every fail breakdown is going to work 100% of the time. It's not 100% win rate strategy, so that might be one that falls into that category. But for me, I guess the only lesson I'm sort of picking up on here is perhaps with this lower low that occurred during the acceptance cycle, it needed a bit more time above to really confirm that it wanted to hold above that 77 level. So that's kind of my only takeaway, but that's tricky. That can go both ways for sure. But here, we dipped down to 64 and we pushed straight back up to 77 in a pretty straight shot. So 14 points without much of a dip there. Particularly if I bring up the little range chart that I like to look at. So let me get to the right location here. So we're talking about, so this little area. So these are the two acceptance dips. Made a lower low, but then just pushed straight back up. So maybe in hindsight, should have waited for this dip and then a decent hold above. But yeah, tough one there. What are your thoughts, Minok?
Yeah, so honestly, in interest of not having the video go too long, actually, I would say I viewed it the same way you did. Nothing really different in the way I approached the this trade and the setup and the way it went. Pretty much the exact same thoughts. I guess the only thing to note potentially, because I did see Adam's note later, saying that, it was an option. It was a little tight, he thought, though, taking it at 7:30. And so, probably kind of what you highlighted there in terms of maybe needing it to give it a little bit more time because we had just made a quick lower low and we were coming up 15 points essentially straight. We were technically still in that danger zone, right, as we like to call it. 5 points roughly around the low. So there wasn't really a big momentum push out of that area. Again, I would say 9 out of 10 times, I probably still take that trade. And I do think most times it has good follow through. So, that's actually one I feel like I'm okay to live with in terms of it taking a loss. But yeah, everything else I see it the same way you did.
Yeah, from my journaling perspective, I put that down as a good losing trade, in that I
Hmm.
felt like I followed the process. So yeah, let's crack on then because we've got a couple more to cover here. So the next one was 69.50 again. Really nice level here. 69.50 was Monday's low of day. And I'm gonna have to drop down the time frames to kind of see this one in replay. But this had some pretty good acceptance. So, and I'm probably gonna switch to the back to the range chart because it shows it better in my opinion here. But um, this was my first kind of gold level for the day that I was monitoring. Um, and this occurred. What time was that? So right around, was it 10 o'clock, something like that. But let me switch over to the other chart and we could see it a little more clearly. So where are we? So this one I actually missed. I was just about to trigger and it was one of those I literally looked to the left to my execution platform and then looked back to the chart, and in that couple of seconds it suddenly burst through the level from 50 straight up to 60, and it was gone. There was maybe a dip I could have gotten in on that one, but I was sort of quite shocked by it, stunned by it, and I'm like, what's just happened here? But this one had some great acceptance, where we flushed through the level, good amount, 12 points, something like that. A little bit of type 1, and then came up and really put in some extensive type 1 here. Let me get the timestamps on these. So right between 10:05 and 10:11, and that was one where you just had to be kind of really trigger quick if you were watching for that momentum spike. I actually haven't watched this one in replay, but it seemed like it went in a few seconds. You were able to catch that one, weren't you? How did you see it?
I did. So I saw we had some really nice acceptance there, right? We had a really nice rejection down, kind of like a type one acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
And we also had some structure at 53. So while we did have that 50 low for a Monday, we also did have that, bounce that from 53 that happened a little bit prior. So I was kind of waiting for 53 to clear too, get that little bit of micro kind of intraday structure to clear too. And we had a nice kind of like type one rejection off of that. So once we got that, I started kind of really watching like a hawk. Especially, once price started speeding up a little bit, I had a feeling that if we were to get it, it could kind of trigger quite quickly. So once we got it, I just, I entered in long above 53. I actually got to think I got to fill around like 55, close to 56 almost.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then took a nice two level kind of move out. So that was ended up being a pretty nice trade. But obviously because we were under 77, which is kind of I think the theme of the day to note, because we had lost that 77 area, sellers were in interim control. So you have to just expect that this trade is gonna, just potentially back test and sellers are going to have a chance to slap it back down, which is kind of exactly what we got, and is kind of like, as we're going to discuss moving forward, is kind of what we've been getting essentially all day.
Yeah, sell the bounce day for sure. Um, that 69 was the bull bear line for today, and then we perfectly back tested it off of that trade, and down we went again. But that was
Yeah, one thing honestly I do at least on my charts is I highlight that line, right?
mm-hmm.
That bull bear line every day on my charts. And as soon as we lose it, so today once we lost it at like below that area, I have a big red line under, right? So I know anything right under this is a little bit higher risk in the sense of, you have to be a bit careful knowing that sellers control. So just treat everything a little quicker, treat it almost as just a little quick scalp, and, expect that while we stay under that line, there's a sell program on. So potentially, we're going to have nasty rejections at those back test areas. And the only way it'll turn off is either we, recover that initial shelf, or eventually we get and recover a couple of these back test levels to show that bulls are finally taking back a little bit of control.
Yeah, the same thing on my chart here. I color that one in red amongst all the other levels. I know you can't see my screen, but okay. So that was that for that one, and then finally, where were we? 69.37 was another. Well, 35 to 37 was another key level from the newsletter, and so here we're actually looking at more of a macro fail breakdown because the low we're trading is fairly far away. I gotta go and actually look. Yeah, so this is from Wednesday of last week or Thursday of last week, maybe. We're right at midnight between Wednesday and Thursday last week. So that one falls into the macro fail breakdown category. Um, and with this one again, nice type one acceptance here. The one minor sort of point of precision to note was we got this intermediate low or intraday low from the flush low of that 69.50, which we just talked about. And so that was the latest structure to look to trade off of, and you probably want to adjust to that level and get in slightly above it on the reclaim, or else you can kind of get trapped a little bit in this acceptance that's going on around the level. So yeah, always make those minor adjustments. It can help out for sure. With this one, I'm not going to talk about it too much because I'm doing that live. I'll tag on after. So do you want to just note it through from your perspective? I mean, nothing particularly special, really. Just typical Type One acceptance, and then a little lift off. Get in a couple of points above the level. Fairly straightforward, huh?
Yeah, I would say so. Pretty straightforward with that. And you know what, that is one, well, I'd say if I had to give one benefit of these days where sellers are in control and we have a little bit of volatility. I know Adam loves to say these are kind of dream conditions for level to level traders. And I think the reason why he says that, right, is because I think on days like this, acceptance becomes it becomes almost easily visible, right? When you have days where things are a bit choppier or a little slower, volatility isn't as good, sometimes it's a little trickier to view acceptance. But I think on days like this, the real main benefit is it becomes very easy to view acceptance. Like these rejections are usually pretty hard hitting, pretty fast, pretty clear to see. So I think that really becomes the benefit. So I think today with some of the trades here lower, I think really the acceptance was quite clear to see, and I think hopefully everyone that's watching or listening to this is able to see those. I mean, you don't really have to squint as much to see it; it becomes quite nicely visible to see. So that definitely ends up being a nice perk.
Yeah. The only thing I thought about this one in the moment was we were just sort of hanging out in that range, like 5 points beneath the level, and so it's quite hard to judge the the increase in momentum without letting it run too far above the level. So for me, I was just waiting for it to get a couple of points above the level and stay there for a few minutes, and then took an entry right around 69.40, as opposed to where you're getting like a nice clean test of the level and then dip 10 points off of it and then push straight back up through with momentum. This one was a little bit more compressed in the acceptance, very much how we got at 69.50 earlier on.
Yeah, and if you waited for that momentum, this trade was quite quick.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it was I can check how long that was in this, but I do not think it was for too long. Let's see, I was in this in and out in, yeah, 2 minutes,
Yeah,
2.5 minutes. So it was quite quick.
ideal. Okay,
Yes.
great. Anything else you want to add from your side?
Uh no, not on this one. I thought this one, like we talked about, pretty straightforward on this one.
Okay. All right, so I think that's it for the trade recap today. I'm going to tag on my live execution of this at the end. Let us know in the comments if that's helpful. It does take quite a bit of effort to edit that and put that in, and if no one's interested in it, I'm not going to waste my time doing it. So, all right, appreciate you guys. We'll catch you later. Thanks. Bye for now. Okay, before I paste on the live execution, I just wanted to show the indicator from the Discord that admin has developed and how it helps a user read read acceptance around a level. So this is just showing it from the 6938 failed breakdown that we discussed that kind of triggered right around 11:20ish this morning. So you obviously you enter the level into the indicator, and then it just kind of walks you through the different stages of acceptance, and then the long entry triggered. So you can see this indicator triggered the long right at 69.45 after we'd recovered the level. We'll do a full breakdown of this at some point in the future. I'm not completely familiar with how it works, but I just wanted to show a little bit of kind of what that looks like and how that can help you get into a trade. So that was the one from this morning, and then we've had another one at the same level, just that just kind of triggered recently. So this is actually showing it on a 1 minute chart, but all of these are the acceptance, and then it's triggering the entry on the reclaim here, so giving an entry right around 69.41, which is just popped pretty nicely. Got to first target up right around 45, and then we're up on, I'm not sure what this spike was, but that's what that looks like. As I say, we'll do a full breakdown some other time, and if you're interested in that, you can check out the link in the description and get that through the Discord. Okay. Okay, so I thought I'd try something a little bit different today for the trade recap. I'm actually recording this live, and I'll paste it into the trade recap video later if it turns out to be relevant. So what I'm watching here is the 69.37 level, 15-minute on the right, and then just monitoring acceptance using this 20 range chart on the left. 37 was, or 35 to 37 was the key level from the newsletter, and then we've had this pretty significant low here at 38.25, which we put in a failed breakdown of at the 69.50 level. A bit of acceptance there. I was just about to trigger an entry and then looked away for a second and it ripped, so I didn't take that trade. I think that was some tariff news drop, but bigger picture, we are in a little bit of a sell the bounce regime today. Every bounce is getting hit down, so potential for this to be a mode 1 red day. Obviously it's only 11 o'clock in the morning at this point, so don't really know, but just wary of that. The short-term bear case has triggered, and we're definitely in a sell regime, so want to wait to see some decent acceptance here of this 37-38 level before triggering an entry. So I'm just going to keep monitoring this. I mean, what I'm just noticing right now what I'm observing is this type 1 acceptance where we've flushed the level down by 10 points or so, 11 points, returned to it fairly rapidly, dipped 5 points, returned to it again, just about poked through or tagged it, and then now putting in another 5-point dip. Price action has slowed down a little bit. We are approaching midday, so a lot of the volatility has died off. If I can bring the pen up, where is my? There it is. Yeah, what I'm looking for really is, let's go. Now if we can just boost up here with some momentum, kind of keeping an eye on the volume, the speed of the tape, and the delta that's coming in. We have had some good delta on this lift here, but it's been decaying a little bit, so cautious of that. I would definitely want to see this pick up here and maintain on any push up through. And if we were to break below the low here, which let's see, where is that? It's right at 26-ish. If we were to fall away here and break below that level, then it will be stand down for me, and just wait for the next thing. We could flush that, but then if we return, I would want to see more acceptance of that level before getting long. With it potentially setting up as a mode 1 red day, definitely cautious here. It may be best to wait for the end of the day, but just going to see what develops here. I'm trying not to pick and choose which failed breakdowns to take if they meet all the criteria, and I think this is setting up so far is conforming, but we just need that push up through with some momentum here. So let's wait and see what happens. If I do include this in the trade recap, I'll fast forward some of this if it gets real slow here. Not just gonna ramble on without anything meaningful to say. So let's sit back and see what happens. Okay, so we're pushing up through here, getting some reasonable delta coming back in. Just looking at stop distances here. So let's say we would take an entry here at 38, 39. We're going to be looking at a 38, 39 to 26. Yeah, it's the best part if you want to put it a couple of points beneath 26. It's going to be the better part of a 15-point stop. So size accordingly for the structural stop there. Targets with this one, we do have a little bit of structure in here. What I'm not really liking about this one at the moment is just really struggling to reclaim this 37, 38 level. Momentum's kind of died here. The fact that we're just kind of hanging out at the level. I really want to see a push up through. I thought they were going to try it here. I thought they were going to try it here with this volume on this candle, but that seemed to quickly diminish. So let's see what happens. Just not really a big fan of all these bars being stacked side by side like this. I much prefer to see clean moves up and down, but you can't always get exactly what you want. This is quite similar to the acceptance we had at the 69.50 level earlier. was I looking at? Oh yeah, levels. So above the 37, 35, 45 is the next major level. So that would be our profit take on this one for first target. 45 right in here. Stop is going around 25. So maybe 13-point stop, 7-point first profit. It's going to be difficult to observe a spike in momentum here without price already running a few points above the level, just because the way all of this, is stacked, and the way we're just hanging out right at the level. So any spike in momentum is going to take us up through 38 and 40, probably, before it can react to that. Okay, I'm going to take an entry there. I like the acceptance. It gave, I think, adequate time for sellers to show their hand. It was a little tricky to gauge like a trigger. I was just trying to be as patient as I could be, without letting price run too far above the level. So decided to take an entry there for my second trade of the day. First target is 45. 44.75. Okay, I'm going to take off here. Okay, so I think that's probably it for the live portion of this. Got in right around 40, took off at 45. And I'm just going to keep the runner active now until about the 25 blows out. So good acceptance on that one. A little tricky to judge a momentum trigger, I would say, just with sort of the acceptance being relatively tight around the level. But just give it some patience. Get in a couple of points above the level after it's been there for a few minutes, and yeah, fairly happy with that one. After, as I mentioned in the live stream this morning, took a loss on the 69.77. So let's see where this one runs. I'll paste this into the trade recap later, and we'll do some more explanation about it with Manak by my side. Okay, thanks guys. Bye.